Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Q&A day. It's Pick the Brain of Great Souls. We invite great souls on the show on Sundays to find out their yoga journey, their spiritual pursuits, and just to sort of get into their mind and intelligence and figure out what makes them tick, people that inspire us. And today we have a very inspirational person, old friend of mine, even older friend of Kaustubha, Yogi Charu. Welcome to the show, Yogi.
Thank you so much, Raghu. Thank you, Costa. Thanks for having me.
And he got caught in this pandemic. Some people got caught traveling in the pandemic in like horrible places. I don't know what he's doing, but he is in lockdown on the island of Oahu. What a place to be locked down. How are you dealing with that?
Very hard to deal with it.
Tropical fruits and beautiful trees and the pristine ocean. I don't know how you're sitting through this whole thing.
This is the charmed life of a real yogi. He gets on an airplane, flies to Hawaii, he lands and finds out that lockdown just got set in New York City where he lives. And then his friends say, oh, we'll give you a house to stay in on the beach and just stay here as long as you want. That's what he's doing.
It's amazing.
Just chilling out, yeah.
You know, Yogi Charu, as Raghunath said, is very old. I think we met maybe in 95, 96, when you first came to LA.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, so, 25 years ago, so something like that. And but Yogi Charu was like, you could see he wasn't an ordinary person right from the beginning. He was very special, and in certain ways that became more and more revealed. But we talk about different kind of yogis, and there are us Bhakti-yogi, dented can kind of people, but Yogi Charu, he has the what I would call the samskaras. From his past life, it's obvious that this person was practicing yoga on some kind of deep level because he's attracted, like his mind is attracted to things that most people it's not. It's like Yogi Charu will do these things, like he'll sit still for 24 hours and count every single breath.
You don't do that, Kaustubha?
I don't do. I've never done that. I don't think I could do that for 1 hour.
I can't do it. I don't think I could do it.
But the mind that wants to do that kind of thing, it's a certain level of, we could say mental control, but just like he's got the samskaras where you'll experience things like that, and things about the self will be revealed through that. And when the mind can be kind of settled, things about God and about life in general can be revealed in that state. And so Yogi Charu, he's a Bhakti yogi. He was trained like a brahmachari, like a monk, like Raghu and I were when we were younger. But he also, parallel to that, he's investigated and practiced these deeper kind of meditations and yogic cleanses and different things like that. And so that's especially what I would like to talk with you about today, Charu. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when you were born in Belize, and but at a young age you met a wandering yogi who trained you a bit in yoga. Is that correct?
Introduced me to yoga, yeah. Me and a friend, and then we practicing mostly the asana and pranayama aspects, and then got a hold of Prabhupada's books. Okay. And then
what books did you?
The Science of Self-Realization, Chant and Be Happy,
okay,
and the Gita. Amazing, because a lot of people from Belize would fly through Miami, I guess, and that's how they would get books. And I'm from the inner city of Belize, so I never had that ability to travel the world. But somehow, as I was evolving at that age, books started to manifest. Like we got any kind of, like before it was like any Buddhist book, anything that had meditation in it started, and then Prabhupada's books manifested.
Was it just you and one of your friends just had this interest in yogic things, and together you were investigating?
Yeah.
And then
we both stopped school together, both left.
And then you saw.
How old were you? I'm curious. How old were you when you got into it?
I got introduced to it when I was 15 and a half. And then we left the country when I was like 17 and a half.
17 and a half. Okay. And then you and your friend just kind of you saw in the back of one of those books, the ashram and the address for the ashram in Los Angeles.
So we wanted to go to India because like before I got the books, we were already doing meditation, like, impersonalist type philosophy and stuff. But once we got the books, at the back of the books, there was the BBT. So I didn't have money, but my friend had money. So he would order more books. And I remember he ordered deities as well. And we were just anything on spirituality. So, and then we wanted to go to India, but his father lived in LA, so we landed in LA first, and then from LA. Yeah, that's how I kind of met Kosti, I think.
Yeah, then they don't know me as Kosti here, probably.
Kosti? Is that? Wait a second. Is that a nickname I missed out on? Kosti? We call him Special K here.
Okay, cool.
I like Kosti.
So Yogi Charu and we served together for years as monks, and then after some years of that, then you went on like some adventures, on your own. You wanted to go up to the Himalayas and study with the yogis and live in the ashrams and be trained in all the different types of meditation. And so, could you share a bit of where you went and the atmosphere that was there, the experience that you had, the kind of places you stayed, and the kind of people that you met?
Yeah. So the first time I went to the Himalayas, I was up there for a month. Those days, if you win the marathon, right, selling books, you get to go to India. So every time I went to India, and they give you like an allotted time, right? You have to come back.
The ashram said you can go to India, but only for this amount of time.
For 1 month, yeah.
Okay.
And I always extended because I was always
a little bit of a rebel
to yoga. I was attracted to yoga, so I wanted to see India as well, travel all over India, and then going up to the mountains. And so there's this. The first time was in maybe about 2.5 miles north of Gangotri Temple. So it's between Gangotri and Gomukh. It's
Gomukh is the origin of the Ganges River, which is very high in the Himalayas.
Yeah, where the Ganges come out.
Yeah, Gangotri is like kind of the main town nearest to that, like kind of the end of civilization up there.
And then you have to hike up to get to Gomukh. Huh?
Gomukh, yeah. So it's like a day hike in to get to Gomukh, and that's if you're hiking fast. So it's only about quarter way in, so not too far in. About maybe can get there in about a couple hours hike to where this ashram is, and it's a basic, simple ashram where yogis live. And then around it, there are a lot of caves, right? You see different yogis living in caves and stuff like that. And you'll meet them when you come out to take your bath in the Ganga in the morning. So that was the first time up there. And the teacher up there, his name was Yogi Vijay. And they're very, their lineage are from Shivites. And but it's also, their philosophy is also mixed with a nut sect, because they're very strong on the cleansing, the dhautis, the cleaning techniques, right? Okay. And apparently the Matsendra Nath, the Nath yogis, if you see them in Bengal or in Nepal, you find a lot of them, the ears are like long with these long piercings in their ears. Nath yogis, like the Hatha yogis. So a lot of their techniques were built on how to cleanse the body. Actually, I just did a cleanse yesterday with about 35 people through the Bhakti Center yesterday.
Yeah.
First time we did it through Zoom.
Okay.
I teach
A
people
Zoom
how
class?
to.
What did
Yeah.
it consist of?
So I taught the elephant kriya called Nasipan, how we clean the body is made up of 9 gates, but all yogis understand. And 7 of those gates are in the head, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nose, mouth, and then the genital and the rectum. So the cleanse yesterday, what I did was to clean all of those. So we the elephant kriya is you get salt warm water and in a bowl, and you put the head into it, and you inhale the water through the mouth. So you're breathing in water. So a lot of people have phobia for that, right? Oh, whoa. So it's and then you drink the water through the nose like an elephant. Then it goes into the back of the mouth, and the mouth swells up and catch the water, and then you lift the head and you spit the water out. So that way you're cleaning the nose, you're cleaning, and then when you're in it, we do the tratak exercises, yes? So you're looking up, down, side, so you're watching the eyes as well. So you're cleaning, because they're all connected, nose, eye. So that was one of the kriya we did yesterday. And that's
Maybe
a lost kriya.
Maybe the
No one
messiest
does.
Zoom meeting of all time. Coughing up on the
Yeah,
screen.
you know, these practices have been lost. They don't exist in the West anymore. The only one I see these days is Neti Pot, right? Where people, you can get a Neti Pot. But even that, the yogis never used Neti Pots before. Because when I was up there, Neti Pot didn't exist. Oh. Neti Pot just came around about 150 years ago. So what did the yogis do before Neti Pot? They used their hands. That one way. And then I taught another kriya where you use your hands to get the water up through the nose, send it through the mouth, called Vyukram. And so I taught those yesterday, and people had fun with it, the first experiences. And these were the things that I learned first when I got there, because they were so strict on detoxifying the body. Before you can go and work on stilling the body to sit still for a long time, you have to remove the values, you have to regulate the values in the body, and the cleanses does that for you.
So now, when you say, I'm sorry, when you say sit still for a long time, how long were you sitting and what were you doing during the day?
So those days we were trained to sit, like you mentioned, sit for 24 hours. Okay. So
that's
it was every Thursday was dedicated to try and sit for 30 hours for 24. Now, and the way how it was, I remember the first time I tried to sit down, I lasted like 12 minutes. My neck was hurting, my back was hurting. Because the way how you do it, the yogis, they always have a lota, water pot. So you get the water from the Ganga, and you get into your seated pose. And to train your body to stay still and to prevent you from sleeping, you put the lota on the head.
Lota is like a cup.
A cup. Yeah. So the water is in it. If your pot falls off, you finish for the day. My pot lasted 12 minutes the first time. It fell off. And then you give up the practice that day. But I got inspired because some of my friends, they were younger than me. They were like 14 years old, 15, and they can sit in that Padmasana and they stay the whole time. And I'm like, wow, okay, get inspired. So
I have a pointy head also. I think I would do very poorly with this. My head comes up like this, like a stegosaurus.
Yeah, but the yogis up there, most of them have locks, right? So you will fold your locks in a way where it actually fits. Yeah.
Like, were they cheating sometimes and kind of tying it up with those locks? You know, it doesn't matter what they do.
It's so that your brainwave, when your brainwave drops, it doesn't go into delta. Because if you go into delta, this happens if you fall into sleep, brainwave, right?
Right.
So it keeps you, and also it keeps your spine taut, because when people sit for meditation, this is what happens after a while. You hunch. So having it trains the values to move up through the central pathway of the spine. And so I was able to master it. And then, so another cleanse they're strict on is washing out the whole alimentary canal. It's part of the Hatha yoga practice. So it's about 30 feet long, right? From the mouth through the esophagus, the stomach. So I taught that yesterday as well. So we use it with lukewarm salt water, a gallon and a half. You drink 2 glasses, then there are poses to open the little sphincter muscles around the whole organism. So the values open, and then in about an hour's time, solid starts to come out, semi-solid come out, and then like yellow water come out, and then after an hour, clear water here, clear water comes out. So the whole organs and the spleen, the liver, the kidneys all get purified.
Okay, so now
These are some of the these are the hatha yoga cleanses, which were the foundation. As you detox, then you start to do asana. So your asana would, you would see your body mutate. Because when I got there, you know, sitting cross-legged in lotus was challenging, but then after like 2-3 weeks, the body just developed lucidity, you know, just move, prana, the values move. Yeah.
It's amazing how, like, what do they say? Like, who came up with these? Who came up with these ideas of cleansing? Was it a yogi at a particular time? Was it a yogi from hundreds of years ago that channeled some demigod? Is it Ayurvedic? Where are they from? What's the origin of them? Have you ever found that?
Beautiful question. Yeah. All the kriyas, they're brought into this dimension by Shiva. So Shiva teaches these to Parvati. In the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, that's where you find them. In another yogi, Garanda Samhita, he explains them as well. Garanda is actually a Vaishnava yogi who wrote a book on yoga. And so he borrowed but the original person, when it was first written, all the kriyas, they're right there in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And that's why the Nata yogis, that lineage, that's their foundation.
Now, is that something you could read? Because you can get copies of the Garanda Samhita and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Is it something you can read and practice, or would you recommend going with the teacher or something? It doesn't. I've read through Hatha Yoga Pradipika. It's a very, very out of this world book.
Yeah. So, a book is called Gyan, but we want to turn the Gyan into Vigyan. The only way you turn it into realized knowledge is if you learn it from a teacher. And in those books, Shiva always makes, and it's just who translates it, but from all the translations that I've seen and from my little Sanskrit that I know, it says you should learn these techniques from a qualified teacher. It doesn't say certified teacher. Everyone is about 800 hours certification. I'm like, no, I don't think. No, it's a qualified teacher. So a qualified teacher is someone who learned it from a teacher. So in the West, when I'm in the West, I can pick up when someone learns something from a book, because there's a lot of hidden techniques or some in those sutras. So it might look one way when you read it. It's a whole other experience when you learn it from person to person. So the transmission, so wisdom, you can get some realization by reading, no doubt. But I guarantee you, the internal practices, you can't learn those by yourself. You'll cause harm to yourself. Right? Could you imagine we don't have what you call it, X-ray, and the Hatha Yoga says someone takes a tube, send it up through their nose, and pulls it out through their mouth. If you don't know X-ray, if you don't know the anatomy of your skull, if you send a tube up your nose, you think it's going to go up into your brain, right? So, and no, but the rishis, Shiva was he's an adept yogi. So he understands the anatomy very clearly through clairvoyancy. So they were ahead of our time when it comes to anatomy. Like even today, scientists are still, we just found this part of the body. We didn't know this exists. Not with the yogis. They had clairvoyancy. They can see the whole physical body with the organs. They can see the astral body with the organs as well, the astral organs. They can see it in energetics, like they can see beyond. So when they're writing, it's from experience. It's not from a speculative point of view.
So now you're spending up to 4 months at a time in these ashrams that you were visiting up way up.
So
high.
we'll go back and forth. Yeah.
And I'm curious about the people that you're meeting and the role that that environment that they place themselves in played also. In other words, what role did the mountains and the river and the air that they're breathing up there, the water that they're drinking up there, this was all important to the practice, I've taken.
Yeah, yeah. So they keep, one of the foundation is their environment. So if you read the books of yoga, especially like even in the Bhagavatam, you hear about yogis going to a forest, or they're going near, they need to be near a well where they can get water, where they can, simplicity, or they might be up in the mountains. So why is that? Is because you're away from the general masses where there's a lot of rajas. So you want to be in a place that's sattvic. So you can find a sattvic place, like, right? If you're in any big city, if you, right, you go a little, we live in New York City, we go upstate, a couple hours, you're in a it's more sattvic. So that those are more ideal environment, and the air is cleaner, right? Because you're doing a lot of breath retention, a lot of holding of the breath. The prana has to be pure. So the yogis, that's why they choose it. And again, they're up there for training. Like after I learned so many practices, then I would go to different places around India. The yogis, they go to train, and then they go into cities to teach. So it's not like something where escapism, right? It's a place you go to learn, and then you leave and you start to. So
But I'd imagine some of them continue to live up there for many years.
Yeah, some do, and that's their karma. I'm from the West. I had a Western passport. I'm not, so sure. I couldn't stay in India longer than 6 months. So, and then when I went back, my teacher, I started to learn from different schools, because up there you learn to live like a yogi.
Yeah.
You don't learn to teach, right? So when I needed to learn to teach yoga, like I didn't know how to to teach like a yoga class, what we have in the West. I didn't know how to do that. That's right. I didn't learn that. So the way I learned to teach was from the Bihar school. So, and I have 2 teachers from the Bihar school who refined my teaching so much. Ananda Kapila Saraswati, and my Swara teacher, he has an ashram in Rishikesh, and he also has an ashram in Bangalore. They're the teachers they're the 2, like the way I teach and how to structure a class. And that's how I like to teach yoga.
I have a question, and that is, every day here on Wisdom of the Sages, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And we hear some amazing stuff in there. People doing far out things that seem impossible or that seem like they must be mythology. But when you were up there in the mountains, when you went way up high there, and did you see anything yourself amongst these yogis that indicated that people can do things that we don't think that we can do?
Kaustubha always brings it back to the paranormal, I find.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember one of the first things that blew my mind away, I saw a yogi lying on a bed of nails, and those nails were like this long, right? And I'm thinking, wow, I want to learn that, right? I remember the first time I tried to learn that bed of nails, man, those nails hurt me so much. I jump off that thing, and then I figure it out. You have to learn the art of relaxation. You have to master yoga nidra, so that when you're on it, there's no tension whatsoever. So and then I got to master that. But that was my first, like, wow. And then one year, I remember I was up there, and a certain type of naga, because again, when you're up there, there's so many types of yogis, right? You can find all kind of different sects. I remember this, like, it's common in the yoga culture, a yogi might cut the ligament a little bit, just not all the way, just a little bit under the tongue, so they can curl the tongue back into Khechari Mudra. In the Western world, we see it when a little baby is born and they can't suck the mother's nipple, right? The doctor will cut the ligament to help the baby.
Tongue-tied, it's called.
Yeah. So I'm used to that, I understand that. But then this one yogi came by one day, and he had his, not only that underneath, he had his tongue
Slit.
slit. And I was like, wait. And he practiced mona, no speaking. So, but him and my teacher connected telepathically, mind to mind, yeah. And I remember he got into his lotus. Now, up there, the Ganges is flowing, yes, very fast. And if me and you go in the water, you have to hold on to a rock, or you hold on to, take your dip and then come right out.
You get swept away otherwise.
You get swept away, yeah. And so I go in for my dip, and I go right close to the bank. Right? All my friends, we do it. You jump into the bank right there, like 10 seconds, get out of there.
It's very cold,
so
right?
Freezing cold.
It's coming from a glacier.
Yeah. The first time I did it, my teeth was, and then I got used to it. I could now immerse myself longer. But this Baba Naga, he went into the middle part of it, and he got in his lotus, and he immersed himself under the Ganga, and it's moving, and he's not moving. He's just sitting there, and he locked his nostrils with the fangs. They came out, the Naga closed and under there. And
so he placed, in other words, his tongue is split, and he uses that tongue to block his nostrils.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the middle of the raging river, and he sinks to the bottom.
Wait a second. His tongue came out of his mouth, up his nostrils, or in his skull? Out? Like Gene Simmons out?
Like this. Out, and then lock. And then I was asking my teacher how he did it. And my teacher explains that he's surviving on prana. And that.
How long did he stay in the water?
Oh, he stayed there for about 1 week. If me and you are in the water for like 2 or 3 hours, our skin starts to change. We start to dwindle. Prune, yeah. One day, you start to get rash. It starts to dwindle. 5 days, 7 days. So, and every day I go to take he's still there. So I'm like, and my teacher's explaining that he has a city where
mystic
they can
perfection.
Mystic power. Yeah. Like different yogis had different powers. It's rare I've met someone who had all the 8 powers. If someone had that, we call them a Mahasiddhi. But not all, some yogi might get one siddhi here, one siddhi there, like that. And so, and my teacher was explaining that he's able to breathe through his pores. So in the West, we're trained that we breathe through the nose, yes? Mm-hmm. But I learned very quickly, we don't breathe only through the nose. We breathe through the pores of the whole body. Just like when we perspire, if you're doing a yoga class and you're sweating, water is coming through your arms, yes, sweat all over. It's not just water coming through your pores, it's also air coming through the pores, because air is lighter than water. So the yogis, they understood, I can transform, they can mutate and breathe through the pores. So that's what he was doing. I was like, that was my first.
So he was breathing through his pores underwater.
Underwater, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was able to maintain. And in the Bhagavatam, and I was like, because I had read parts of the Bhagavatam where it says the prachetas, they're under the ocean, under the river for like 1,000 years. Right?
This comes in the 4th canto, yeah.
Yeah, meditating under I was like, whoa. So they're meditating for 1,000. This yogi had maybe a 10% of that city. Because 7 days is a lot already. I was like, whoa. Yeah. So that was one of.
So these yogis understood that what we think we can do, their limitations were expanded, right?
I understood that the human form can do so much more than we think. And also just from my own experience, when I started to learn all the bandhas, like Raghunath was saying, he read the whole Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and it mentioned the bandhas in there. They'll translate it for you. But to actually experience those practices on a deep level, I read it the first time. It went like this over my head. When I learned it the proper way, and I could see how it enhanced my breath retention, I started to hold my breath longer and longer and longer, and the mind became more and more calm. Because remember, they're trying to still the mind.
Right.
And they understood this universe, this body right here is a micro universe. So the micro universe has everything that's in the outer universe. So it has earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the elements, that when the physical body is made up of those elements, we also have a subtle body. The subtle body is made up of the mind, the intellect, and the ego. That's what we can't see. When you look at me, you can't see my mind. You can't see my intellect. So that part of us is always with us. Then we also have another body called the causal body. And that's that's the first layer that covers the Atma, the spiritual being. So when you start to do the bandhas and you start to hold the breath, you start to understand, wait. This is from my experience. And I was like, whoa, we don't only breathe with the physical body. We also breathe with the astral body. And we also breathe with the causal body. And our astral body breathes slower. And then the causal body even breathes slower. So as you hold the breath, physically, we're still breathing with the astral body. And we have experiences in those dimensions. And every human experiences it in nighttime when they go to sleep. Because in the nighttime, when a human goes to sleep, they can enter a yogic state if they can remain awake. So normally, that was another one of the first things I was even taught. You got to start to catch your dreams. So the yogis understand that the Atma is always, we present our consciousness, we project our consciousness into this dimension, this waking state. Yogis call it Jagrat state. So you're waking. You're getting information in your mind from the objects that the senses is making contact in this dimension. Now, when you go to sleep, you close these eyes, you start to perform pratyahara. You turn
Withdrawal
them in.
the senses.
Withdrawal of the senses. Then every one of us will then explore our astral body. That astral body is getting, we call it, when you go inwards, we call it the swapna state or the dream state. So when you're dreaming, you will get information from your perception from the external world from when you were awake. So like, let's say a doctor will have in his dream, a lot of his clients will come in his dream because it's triggering it.
Okay.
That's when it's coming from the external to the internal. But then the prana will flow through different nadis and then our channels around the heart space. And then we can even connect to divinity. So we'll get information, not just from the physical dimension, but from the other body, which I explained, causal body. That's where we can connect to the Paramatma. So sometimes in dreams, you might have a dream of the person you see yesterday or the interaction from the day. But then every now and then, someone will have a divine spiritual dream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming from a subtler realm, from the spiritual domain into the astral body.
That happens to Raghunath all the time. It does,
yeah,
right?
If you're on your spiritual pathway, that's what's taking place.
All right.
So then so every human has this ability. So like when we say, oh, the yogis are meditating, yes, they're doing it consciously. Every human, every species, tap into it when they go to sleep. They just have to learn how to remain awake. So when you put this body into stillness, either sitting or sleeping, your astral body is working. Now, how did the yogis, they figure it out that we're breathing differently in our different bodies? It's amazing. There's also, I can calculate it, but that's a whole lot of practice. That's when I started to learn Swara Yoga, that's when I started to understand how it works. But just for the general sake, everyone here, I'm pretty sure, has had a dream where in the dream, it felt like 1 year. But within that 1 year of your dream, it was only 10 minutes in this dimension, dimension out here. Then sometimes, if it's coming from a deeper realm, you might have a dream for like 10 seconds, it seems, or 1 minute in the dream world. But in this dimension, where time is, it's like 30 minutes. So we can start to see the Atma is experiencing different layers of consciousness according to the different types of bodies we're using. So right now we're awake, we're using this body predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
When we put this to sleep or we go into meditation, we start to use the astral body. And then if you don't go to sleep, how many people try to meditate and this happens, right? That means we call that yogis call that the shushupti. Yeah, the shushupti awareness, deep sleep. So in the deep sleep, the Atma is still conscious, but it's in a realm where the mind, because the mind is so vast, right? The mind, the yogis, they break down the mental plane, right? So the mind has the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and then we go into that unconscious mind. So when you go into that deep sleep, there's no dream. So that the dream is in the subconscious realm. So when you don't have sleep, when you don't have dream and you're down into that, you're in that unconscious part of the mind. So the consciousness is experiencing a place of inertia. We're still awake. The Atma is still awake, but the Atma won't be able to mutate. There's no, the yogis call it brittis. There's no brittis in the mind. And we enter that realm about, every night you go to sleep, we connect to it. But then when you come back up, there's a meditative space, which is above the swapna state. Between the swapna and the jagrat, the dream state and the waking state, yogis call it turya. That's the place where your mind is so quiet, you can then start to experience the spiritual self. So it takes, because when you're in a dream state, the mind is still having the brittis moving. When you're in that deep sleep, you're just on, there's no brittis moving, but you become unaware. Now, what happens with normal people, the alarm goes off, yes? So when the alarm goes off and you're in that unconscious state, you just come straight back up. You surpass the Turya state. You don't even recognize it. Then similarly, when people go to sleep at night, they surpass the state because people are so tired, they're not awake. They just go straight into delta. The delta, and this is a Western phrase. Yogis just call it, they call delta, we call it shushupti. So in meditation then, whether you're seated or if you're lying down, if you can drop the brain wave and your body goes into stillness, your mind, and if you hover, yogis call it, when there's thoughts in the mind, we call that the Pingala Nadi is open, the right nostril. When they feel sleepy, that's the left nostril. So how to have both flowing, that we enter the Sushumna pathway, Turya. That's where we experience the dynamic power of the Atma. Every time we go to sleep, there's a fight, there's a struggle, there's like a battle for the Atma to put this physical body to sleep, to put the astral body to sleep, to try and figure out, even to try and delete that human consciousness. The human consciousness is preventing us from recognizing that we're a spiritual being. So as a human, we're thinking we're a male, we're this, we're a female, I am Belizean, I'm this, I'm 5'7". That's the human consciousness. Or in the Bhagavatam, in the story of Indra, right? They curse him to become a pig. He's acting like a pig. He's, the soul thinks he's the pig. So similarly, each and every one of us are thinking we're a human. So every night we go to sleep, we have that ability, or meditating, we have that ability to then transcend the human consciousness so we can connect to the spiritual being. So when the mind becomes still and the power of the Atma comes out. And that's where the whole, why we sit still, why we hold the breath, why we add the bandhas. And then you develop these amazing qualities of the Atma comes out. Yes? Someone whose mind is their friend, someone whose mind is peaceful, beautiful qualities start to come out of the Atma, right? Everyone has beautiful qualities, but it's just psychically we've got covered. And then someone who's regularly on their spiritual journey, the beauty starts to come out because they're tapping into that Turiya state regularly, constantly.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
I got a question.
I've been waiting for this question for a while now, Prabhu. I find that, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know in my own life, if you say, "Hey, Raghunath, what did you do yesterday?" And I said, "Oh, I met this guy. What did that guy look like?" My brain would have a tough time recalling what he was wearing, what his face looked like. But it seems like in dreams, the people that I meet in dreams, it's like I've known them for years. I know everything about them, how their hair was dressed. It's like dreams are so real. It's not just like, if I said, think of a guy with a white shirt on, it would be a vague idea of a guy.
Yeah.
And think of a dog, it'd be a vague idea of a dog. But in dreams, it's actually like it's real. Who are you meeting in those dreams? Is it a concoction of the mind, or are we on another realm?
Okay, good question. So you're using the analogy of you sleeping and you're dreaming. You can have that same experience from meditating, because the senses in the astral realm are more refined. Just like this physical body has eyes, ears, nose, there's the astral body, like you said, you see your dreams, yes? So you're using not these eyes, you're using your astral eyes. And then the astral eyes are energized by the Atma. The only way these eyes are working, or our astral eyes are working, is because it's the Atma looking through the eyes of the subtle body and the physical body. So in this physical domain, our mind is using the brain to connect. When this goes to sleep, the brainwave drops as well, right? So then the mind starts to expand from the heart space, from the yogis call it Hridayakash. So what happens is you tap into your subconscious mind, will bring it up more refined. I got so good in meditating, and at the time when I was learning and catching my dreams, Raghu, like you said, so detailed. Once I remember I panicked the first time I got so good, because this dimension with the senses and it's all elements, all energy. So when I went into the dream world and I was able to start to catch my dreams and vibrancy, I got so good at it. I didn't know which one was the waking state. I didn't know if this was the waking state or the Jagrat state, or if this was the Swapna state. So I panicked. It became so real, so vibrant. So yes, our mind our astral body has the power to remember things even more detailed. And that's how we learn. We learn things in the astral body more easier. Yes. When we are learning, we're not learning with it goes through the ear, but it's your astral mind is picking it up, is understanding it. Your brain is formalizing in this dimension, but in the astral realm, your mind and the intellect is working. So we call that part of us, which refine everything in detail. That's why some people, and you look around the West, you see scientists, they tap into it too. They can teach you a language as you're falling asleep. And as you get up, you started to speak the language again. Or they put people in, they're using hypnosis, where they can go in and see a whole previous life, right? And our mind does it. It's just that we're not aware. If you learn to start to catch your dreams, what do you think you're going to see? The dreams will be so vibrant, and you start to see recurring dreams sometimes, and they happen at a certain time when the moon phase, because the moon is affecting the manas, the mental energy. So you start to pick up rhythms, and then you start to see that, oh, wait, my dreams are actually they can bring up songs, they can bring up taste, the mind, because everything that we're experiencing here in this dimension is experiencing the mind. And so when we put this body to sleep, the mind is going to, when we have the dreams, when you're in a swapna state, you will still have perception, but very refined. And that's why it feels so real. If you're having a scary dream, it feels so real. And then you wake up, oh, but it stays with you. Then sometimes, but then my teacher looked at me and said, Charu, this world out here is just a long dream. The yogis call it Jagat Jida, the long dream. Because even this dimension is just elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, where the Atma is relating into it through the sense organs. So even this is a dream. And then the astral dream is also a dream.
Dream
and
within
then
the
when
dream.
all of these, a dream within, and when those fall away, the power of the Atma comes out.
Okay, that was some far out stuff.
It was far out. You know, it's great to hear it from another vantage point. Because we talk about this stuff, but when you're hearing it, Yogi Charu's got such a different vantage point of it. It almost makes me want to bring it back to this world. Like, okay, you have black skin, and we are in a big crisis in politically, and there's divisions and stuff. Like, how do you look at this outside world from this like internal vantage point? What's going on right now? It's so polarized. There's so much hate. What's your perception of the outside world? What should we be doing from that yogi's or mystic's vantage point? How are you dealing with it?
Very good. Thanks for bringing it up. I've been reflecting on it the last month or so, because I live in New York, right?
Right.
And it's easy. You can see there's the tension is there, and it's easy to have the perception that I am anyway inferior to someone, or I'm anyway superior to someone. So as I was meditating on it, I look at what's happening, the tension, and I realize once you take birth, we take birth in a certain body type, you inherit. Once we take birth on the earth planet, all of us, we took birth on the earth planet, we have a planet karma. We have a planet, we're reaping benefits of the planet, whatever history was on the planet. So I took birth in an African descent body. So that means, and I'm living in America now, so that means there's a history of 400 years of tension, right, of exploitation. And then I see that, so as I walk around, then after I understand, okay, it's not just my exploitation of the body, it's also the exploitation of the astral body, the mentality. So the mental state of an African descent person is, that low self-esteem can easily pervade your consciousness. And so as I started to look at it, I see how the tension is there, and I understand, wait, we're missing the point, because everyone wants to have a peaceful life, a happy life. And we have to somehow purify. We cannot change. I got this realization. Because before, I've experienced the other end of racism everywhere I went. India, I used to live in Hong Kong, Australia, everywhere. It's all over the planet, yeah? So as I move around in life with my wisdom, I started to understand, wait, it's just people are not educated properly. And there's an intense layer of ignorance on the planet. So when I'm born in this body, I understand there's 400 years of mentality that's there. And a Caucasian person might have that exploitative psychic conditioning. And so when I meet it, I have to raise my consciousness to a higher platform, because I've been on this journey to connect to the spiritual self. I've understand that we're not this body. I've understand we're not just chemicals, earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? And so as I start to look at it, I understand everyone wants, if you ask deep down, everyone is a spiritual being and everyone wants to be treated equally. But then we get psychic conditioning. So I look at it and I realize, wait, we have to try and purify all these layers that we're conditioned in. And so the yoga culture teaches that the parents, the mother and the father the mother is the first guru of the child. So whoever is the leader of the family, right? The father and the mother and father, they're the ones who start to instill in the psyche of the child. So if you're a leader, right? You're a leader for your friends, you're a leader for your family, or if you're a political leader, it starts with the leader to have a balanced equilibrium. If that's not there, and we see that the political system for the last 400 years have exploited so many African descent people, and not just many, right? Many other denominations. So then we have to understand there's a healing that needs to take place in the mind of the African descent person. A healing has to take place in the Caucasian descent person. So both mentalities have to get purified with intelligence. So in the mentality of an African, that low self-esteem has to come up to, no, I am a divine spiritual being. And I should be respected for, I should have basic human rights. At least that should be there. And I should be equally respected as any other living entity. And then the mentality of a Caucasian person who's exploitative, that has to get purified, that I'm not superior to anyone. And then I have to respect every living entity as part of the planet. So as I go around life, I have many Caucasian friends who, they don't have not a drop of racism in them. I have many Caucasian friends, right? So understand, their parents cultivated that in them. And then a second later, I can leave my house or leave my friend and walk straight into it, right? So that tells me, so I have to use the intelligence. This person was not, this person was not, the parents, whoever, or their school teachers didn't install that evolved place to respect every human form. So then as the intellect, understand the intellect has to get purified, right? And the intellect must expand. So as I live on the Earth planet, I recognize, we depend so much on the solar energy of the sun. We depend so much on the moon's energy. And no race, white or black, can claim we own the sun or we own the moon. So the mind has to really expand to that, wait, we are totally dependent on these other planets within this amazing universe. So this universe, right, is so huge. So the intellect of everyone has to get purified to expand that it's not just the Earth planet we're living on. And so as we start to live on the Earth planet and we understand, wait, we depend on so much more from the other resources. The mind can get purified when you really understand, wow, as a human, I don't even know how to make oxygen, right? So what is my superiority of another human being or inferiority of another human being when neither of us know how oxygen is provided, how the sun is provided, how the moon is provided? And if someone can humble themselves, then they can, the consciousness, they can start to be introspective. So through my yogic practice, I've learned to expand my mind so I don't give in to the racial pull, right? I don't tolerate when someone is exploited. I don't tolerate when I'm exploited. But then I understand you can't change people, but I can change my environment. And once I change my environment, if it affects one person, great. So as you purify the intellect to understand, whoa, We are dependent on the sun, the moon, on the breath. The yogis understand all these are gifts from God. The yogis understand God's love is there for everyone. And it's unconditional love. And that tells us that it doesn't matter how far we drift from being a pure-hearted soul, God still loves us. So the intellect got to get the next layer of us is our causal body. So the causal body has to tap into the power of the Atma, the power of the soul. So the first emotion coming out of us, yes, that first emotion, the true coming out of the true spiritual being is a force which binds people together. We use an English word, we call it love, but it's a force. It's a person with what connects you with your pet. It's a force. We call it love. What connects you with another human being, right? Your wife, your husband, your kids. It's a force called love. So that's in every human's soul consciousness. That's there in everyone. But people get covered psychically, and that love comes out in a wrong way. So I understand that love is always there in people. The person who is committing the crime, someone putting the knee on someone's neck, he'll go home, and that same power, that love will drag him to his wife or to his kids. So then how to purify the love so it spreads for everyone, not just for his family? Then it takes a power of love to, when you're subjugated, people will react. It's natural. People are going to react the way they react, right? No one wants to be subjugated. So when I look at the protesters, I just see people crying out for just love us. That's what I'm seeing. With all the placards, what I'm seeing is people just say, just love us, because that's what the soul is crying out. Nothing more, nothing less. Just love us. But people don't want to change. It's hard when their parents, their system has schooled them in one way, and they have the racial prejudice in them. It's very hard to change the psyche. And so, we want to celebrate change, right? Every one of us. I'm not the same. Our bodies are not the same from 25 years ago, from 30 years ago. So as our bodies change, we have to celebrate it. Whether you're black or white, you cut this, what comes out? Red. Yes, it's natural. In your mind can change. Your mental body can change. I'm born in the Caribbean. So my astral realm is trained with the sight, sounds, smells from a Caribbean culture. Yeah. I brought up with Caribbean music. I brought up with Caribbean food, with sights. But that can change. Our mind is not the same, right? So as you move around, as I move and grow, my mentality change. So if the mind can change, the body is changing, that means everyone has the ability to change. And so it's just trying to show people, hello, there's an imbalance you have. Everyone is looking for love. The police officers, they're looking for love. The African descent person who's been suppressed for so long is looking for love. But people cannot tap into it if the intellect is not purified as well. We're all looking for love. And love is right around us constantly. It's called unconditional love from God in the form of the breath, in the form of the oxygen, in the form of the sunlight, the moonlight, even our planet. Even when we try and destroy the planet still provides so much for us. So it doesn't matter how far away we drift from this power that's coming out of the Atma, Yogis call it Atma Siddhi, the power of the Atma, that force that's there. It doesn't matter how far we drift from it. We can still change, and connect to it. I use the example, I like to tell people, you know, I've purified my intellect, and I use this analogy. When NASA sends their scientists to the space, they don't just get them in 1 week and let's show them what you're going to, now we're going to send 18 of you to space for a year. They don't do that. They understand everyone has a different psychic makeup. So what NASA does, they bring all the scientists and they live together for 1 year. You know, 1 year they live together on Earth so that they see their differences, their weakness and strengths. And then, so when they send them to space, they know how to live with each other to make sure this journey is a safe one. So right now, our Earth planet is actually like a spaceship moving through space right now. Right now, as we're speaking, our planet is, in 1 minute, our planet is moving around, is covering 1,000 miles. It's amazing. Right now, we're floating in space right now. Okay. And it's a spaceship that has 9 billion people, many mountains, many animals, right? We're all moving through space right now. So if we have this understanding, wait, we're moving through space on this spaceship called Earth. We call it Earth, but it's a celestial body moving through space. The Vedas teach us that. It's a celestial body moving through space. And so if we're living on this planet, we want to have a beautiful journey. Let's love each other. Purify the intellect, but people just are so narrow-minded, and we start to see differences, right? I guess of all the mammal species, human is the only one who doesn't get it. Right? It's like we look at the, and it's a pigment color. It's just a pigment, right? And we think one is lower, greater, but people intelligence got to get purified to understand we have a planet karma. We have a human karma. We're on the planet together. Let's help each other to have this experience on this as we move through space. Let's have this experience where we can make it pleasant for the Earth that we're living. Let's treat the Earth with respect. Let's recognize that the Earth is God's gift to us. Let's treat each other with respect, because that's God's love to us. Could you imagine you're the only person on the planet because of your bigotry? I just want me on the planet. It won't be a pleasant place. And God has different flavors, right? There's the moon, there's the sun, there's day and night, there's duality. That's the realm we're living in. But it takes work to get to that place. So I've always lived from that space where when I meet someone's ignorance being manifested, I empathize with them. But I understand not many people has done the work I have done. So when I see people reacting the way, they're just crying out to be loved. Just give us the basic human rights. Just treat us like, at least like a human first. That's what's happening. So as I move around, I have to use a lot of empathy for people's, ignorance and cultural ignorance that's there. Like I said, it's a cultural, once you take birth, you inherit that psyche that's come with their body type. It's natural. Now it depends on your mother and father to purify your intellect so that you don't grow up with low self-esteem, so that you don't grow up thinking you're lesser than anyone, so that you don't think you're better than someone, that someone is less than you. That depends on the parents, then the school teachers, then of course the political leader. It's whoever has that leadership role has to evolve to that power where they can share it on the planet. Because if we were to just have one dimension, we would still find fault with each other. It's amazing.
Is it too late for you to enter the political race as a presidential candidate? I think we could use that right now. Is it too late for you to become a presidential candidate for the next election? Because I think we could use some of this right now.
No, I don't have the psyche to be a president. But I think, like in the Vedas and the Bhagavatam, all the kings they all had a Brahmin.
They were listening
Who
to
didn't
Yogi
have
Charu. They're taking
someone
in.
who they would listen to, so they
Yeah.
understand. Okay, so a leader, a president needs someone who is evolved and can see things so that they're getting the right guidance.
Yep.
Because you don't expect a leader to be like, balanced, right? No, they're governed rajas.
Passionate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Passionate. So they need to have someone around them who is, in the mode of goodness, sattva gun, to help them understand things. Yeah.
You know what you just shared for us. I'm really so grateful on so many levels of what you shared and how you shared it. It was such a breath of fresh air. But even what you illustrated right now, because as we read the Bhagavatam, we hear about it speaks so much about this varna, ashram, dharma, the 4 different occupations that are according to our psyche, and I know that naturally people feel a hesitation towards that because it's been exploited as a caste system and so on. But what you just illustrated right now was so helpful, that a person who has lived a very sattvic life, who has wandered off to the mountains, who has done all kind of intense practices to purify their body and their subtle body, so that they could come in touch with deeper truths about life and see the sun, the moon, the air, the earth is all God's love, understand people's psychic dispositions and the things that trouble them and create these tensions, that a person with a deep realization of this could step up to a political leader who's been trained to respect them and share this kind of information and inspire them, to lead from a more enlightened platform. How necessary that is, and how we are so much lacking it.
It's amazing, right? We still lack it today, unfortunately. But I've also understand everything is temporary. It only lasts for a while, right? So we get reaction. So we get a reaction for something. So I think people are evolving. People are with the pandemic. It's helping people to think out of the box. Yeah, the viruses and
when we don't have leaders, I think our progress it comes in ugly, painful ways. Yeah, but hopefully we're still moving to progress. Before we end, because we're starting to run out of time, but okay, I just want to you've talked about, in a sense, what it is these yogis who are experimenting with consciousness, right? That they're up there in the mountains and they're experimenting. What are dreams, and how do I purify that subtle body, and how can I experience? Sometimes they're getting powers from them. Sometimes they're getting deeper realizations about the self or about God from them. We are not wandering up to those mountains. Now you and I, we have a practice that we do together, right? You've been gone this summer, but you and I would every Friday afternoon, Yogi Charu and I would meet in Central Park. And we open up Bhagavatam and read Bhagavatam. We go to Great Lawn in Central Park and we open up Bhagavatam. We just start reading Bhagavatam.
Underwater? Or
not underwater.
Just regular. Okay.
Under a tree.
We could do it, but I can't do that. But people are asking, do you chant japa? Can you share with, and I will answer that for you, that Yogi Charu is a Bhakti yogi, just like Raghunath and I practice. And he has this other dimension that he's experimented with and explored and is part of his life. But could you share to us the practices of Bhakti Yoga that you've learned through Srila Prabhupada's books, how you understand them, how you understand what they deliver to you as a yogi, and the importance of that Bhakti Yoga practice in your life?
Thanks, Costa. I got this beautiful realization when I was up in the Himalayas. And you started off, Costa, it's not for everyone. It's only for a handful of mentally. I have a certain psyche for that. But then when I studied the Bhagavatam and I studied a lot of yogic texts, I see they always give Vyasadeva or Patanjali, they always give in different techniques, right? We call them dharana techniques. So we call it concentration techniques for the mind.
It's always about controlling the mind in some way.
Always to control the mind. So there's different techniques for different individuals. So going to the Himalayas is not for everyone. Now, Patanjali says if you can't do that, then if you're living in the city, right? I'm just using Patanjali he says you can When you meet someone who's happy, befriend them. When you meet someone who is unhappy, you are compassionate. When you meet someone who's you're revering them, someone who is evolved. When you meet someone who has a demonic mentality, you love them from a distance. So you can keep your mental balance, even get to the same place that the yogis are getting in the Himalayas. You can get there in living in a city.
So in other words, leaving the force will save you a lot of tension. Going to the force will save you a lot of tension in relationships. But if you're not going to, but if you're in the city or whatever, then here's the way that you get that same kind of equilibrium. Take care of how you respect people.
And how do you get to be able to live with those 4 types of mentalities? Both the yogic texts and the Vaishnava texts, they stress this, Sangha, association. You need to be with like-minded people, because that's the backbone. If you have that, then all the dharana techniques of bhakti you'll get a taste for it. So a dharana technique, a concentration technique, is japa, is kirtan, tulsi puja, your deity worship. These are all dharana concentration techniques to purify the mind, to help us concentrate in the mind. So so I do all these. I do puja. I have my altar at home. I have my just this last year I was coming from the Himalayas, and I took a tour. These days I don't go way up into the mountains anymore, because my Swara Yoga guru have an ashram in Rishikesh these days. So that's where I go and I do my tapasya these days. So after we left Rishikesh, me and my wife, we went to Haridwar. And I seldom go to Haridwar. I always because I always go to Rishikesh. That's where the ashram is. And it was Shivaratri. It's crowded.
The birthday of Shiva.
Yeah, it's loads of people, and my wife is in the middle of this, and my wife is like, Charu, I don't know why we came here at this time, right? Why couldn't we come another time? So I said, yeah, and then I realized, yes, I made a mistake. We shouldn't have come here at this festival time. It's so many tourists, right? So
yeah,
we're walking through the pathway, and I pass a deity shop, and like from the side of I just caught a Hanuman deity, right? So I went in there, and the guy looked at me, and then I wanted to get Radha Krishna deities, right? And this Hanuman is just looking at me, this deity. And then I asked him, how much is this Hanuman deity? And he said, give me his price. And then I am getting my Radha Krishna deities, purchasing them. I walked out, and I made 10 steps, and both me and my wife simultaneously, let's get the Hanuman. So we turned back, got the Hanuman, and it's a beautiful, because I do a lot of pranayam. So for the yogis, that's the deity we respect for, Hanuman, the son of Vayu, right? So yeah. I got this. So yes, so I do the puja. I do my pujas, my deity worship. I do my mala mantra meditation. In these days, I do normally in the morning after all my seated practices. I do about 12 rounds straight, and I'm trained to sit still without moving. So I don't move I don't sit still. So I do 12 rounds straight.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, I'm just going on chapa walk on the beach, and do maybe another 4, 6, 8 rounds. That's how I get through my japa. Beautiful. Because the yogis understand in this age, it's through song vibration captivates the mind. So the song keeps you in the present moment, and it's when we start to because it's the elements we're working with: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the subtlest element, the first element of this body that was manifest was ether. The last is earth. So it went from when the sperm and the egg meets, right? That's the first major yoga. Yeah, we're all here because of that union. The second major yoga takes place at birth. There's a union with our heartbeat and our lungs. So when we're in the mother's body, in the mother's womb, we have a heart is developing and the lungs are there, but the mother is breathing for us. So when we take birth, it's the first time we're breathing for ourselves. So the second major yoga. Now, before the body, as the body was developing, it has the samskaras from the previous life. The astral body is there with the atma. And so it's developing. And so the first body that develops is the akash body, the space body. And then by 9 months, we have the fully body made up of earth. So we can survive on this atmosphere. And so and then there's another third major yoga, right? In yoga, we understand there are 3 major yogas. The first one, every one of us been through 2 of them once we took birth. The third major one
and
is
birth.
Yeah, that's the 2 major ones. The third major yoga is the union with the self, Atma, and Paramatma, soul and God. So the time before that happens, you will have 10 million minor yogas. Yes, like right now, my gluteus maximus is making yoga with the chair. My shirt is making yoga with the torso. So throughout your day life, we're all making minor yogas. But the whole goal of life, from the womb to the tomb, is to let us question, who am I? And so when we're in that association of like-minded people who's questioning, who's philosophizing, and then your mind becomes quiet, calm, peaceful, you connect to the higher self, you make that third major yoga, and that's what the yogis have different terminologies for it, right? Self-realization, samadhi, or, different, and that's the third major.
Mukti.
Kaivalya, Mukti. If any one of you master that third major yoga before Yogi Charu, please send your blessings over.
Okay.
That's what we're here for, to figure out who we are. And remember, we fully understand we're not just this body. As this physical body goes to sleep, we have another body, the astral body. When we put that to sleep, it calls our body. So we're trying to figure out that third major yoga. Mm-hmm. And so what enhances it as well for me is, like Costa says, is studying the books together. Because when you study from a teacher, like Costa and Raghu is doing, sharing this wisdom, they're sharing their experiences from the 30 years they've been practicing, 30 odd plus years. So that's being distilled with their realizations and their teachers' realizations, and then Prabhupada's realization. So it's coming through. It's called parampara, ekam parampara praptam. So it's coming through the source, from a pure source, right? It's coming down the Bhagavatam. We get an intro into it from Vyasadeva wrote this amazing thing, right? The Bhagavatam. Yeah. And Prabhupada opened that for us, like, whoa. So we are getting Vyasadeva's realizations, Narada Muni's realizations, Dhruva Maharaj's realizations, all these powerful yogis coming through. And then we get the top of it. And then Kostya and Raghu is distilling it even more, because we have to use it for time, place, and circumstance, right? That's why it's people are really relishing it. Thank you so much for sharing the Bhagavatam classes.
Thank you for presenting that. It's just so clarifying that you've met these incredible yogis up in the mountains, but Vyasadeva and these other sages that we read about in the Bhagavatam, these were the greatest of all the yogis and the sages.
Most powerful.
And then they took it and they churned all their wisdom and they presented it as the Bhagavatam.
Yeah,
and
amazing. And
somehow we get to read it, right?
Yeah, most of the yogic texts, right? Like say they went back to the Vedas, and then they pick out mantras from the Vedas and they build their thesis around it. So the Vedas were the original text written, right?
Yeah.
And Vyasadeva wrote those when he was just learning to self-realize.
In the immature
state. He wrote the Bhagavatam when he was a realized being. So after he wrote the four Vedas, after he wrote the Upanishads, that's when he wrote the Puranas. And it's described when he wrote the Purana, the Bhagavad Purana, he was in the peak of his self-realization. So it's even richer. And that's what his guru told him. Narada Muni, a powerful yogi. Narada Muni can move around this ether, the channel, the space, the universe at will. Narada Muni told him, Vyasadeva, I know why you're unhappy, because you haven't touched the essence of the Vedas. And as he did it, oh yes, he got the understanding. So everything is in the Bhagavatam so profoundly, and because it touches so many types of mystics, but they weren't just mystics. They were spiritualized mystics. They were trying to connect the Atma with the Paramatma, connect the Atma with God. That's the goal of yoga, the third major yoga. Anything less than that, we're falling short of it.
Mm-hmm. Charu, I don't know if I could love you more, but somehow just hearing you, it's my heart is softening all the more. Thank you so much. We need to mention to go to the website, omchandra.com, to learn more about Yogi Charu and what he's offering in terms of meditation classes. Also, you're doing a lot with the Bhakti Center right now. So if you go to the Bhakti Center's website, you'll see things that Yogi Charu is offering in the near future. So please check those out. Thank you so much for this special time that you shared with us. He woke up very, very early in the morning in Hawaii.
That's right. He's in Hawaiian time.
And we're going to bring him back. We're bringing you back on Friday to do something special for our Patreon members. We'll work out with that. Some special meditation or something we're going to do. That'll be Friday.
Yogi Charu, we're inspired. We all want to follow you to the Ganga, to Gangotri. We'll follow you wherever you take us. We'll follow you. Thank you for lighting up and directing our Sunday. We're so grateful.
Thank you so much, Raghu. Thank you, Kosti. Thank you, Mira. Is Mira? Thank you so much.
Mira.
Yeah, Mira. Cheers. Mira, bye.
We want to have you come visit the farm next time you're around. When you leave the tropics, and we're looking forward to your association.
I will make the effort to come up, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. And we want to mention that today we have a special khichdi cooking class by Damodar Priya, and she's an incredible teacher, incredible lady. She's on our show. She's one of our Zoomers regularly. And she's just been a big asset in all the projects we do with the Super Soul Academy. So her and Mara are going to do a cooking class 11 a.m. Right, Mara?
Yeah.
That's Zoom. Good yogi food, right, Charu? The khichdi?
Yes. Aligning the colon properly.
and then we're going to do the elephant basti for the elephant kriya. We're gonna suck it out. We're gonna eat the khichdi through our nose.
Hey, and also 10 minutes from the end of this, we will have our 12-step meeting again. Correct, Jiva? Yes, she's nodding. So yes, 10 minutes from our end.
Our 12-step step study class. 10 minutes right after this. So we have a lot going on. If you want to get more involved with that, or if you want to support what we're doing, it's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Also at noon, I'm doing an interview with Raghunath Swami and Sharon Gannon from Jiva Mukti. So
where do they find that?
You'll find that on
raghunathswami.com.
It's on my Instagram. I can't remember.
Or Raghunath's Instagram.
Go to Raghunath's Instagram at Raghunath Yogi. Now, the favorite part of the show. We dance and we sing.
Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Radhe.
I really needed to hear this stuff. Thanks to everybody joining us late on Zoom. Oh, thanks to my daughter here. Thanks to all the Californians that have showed up today. Usually I don't get the Californians. Thanks to everybody I didn't say hello to. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, welcome to the show. We do this every day. Oh, the whole family is saying.
Jai Shri Krishna.